But at some point, I would love to see them completely revamp that with one of their top items of concern being accessibility, and to realize you've got these love letters to accessibility buried inside, but nobody's sending them out. Okay, so I want to define some terms to move forward. The digital humanities, disability studies in the humanities, and the Prime Directive. Okay, so the digital humanities. How many of you have heard the phrase the digital humanities? Almost everybody. And how many of you feel confident in defining what the digital humanities is? Right, nobody, okay. And that's kind of the joke, that's one of the jokes about the digital humanities, is everybody's talking about it, nobody knows what it is, or it'll mean whatever you want it to mean. I'm going to echo what Matthew Kirschenbaum has said, which is, you know, if you go to Google and you type in what is the digital humanities, the answers you get are actually pretty good. And if you even go to Wikipedia, which as we know is never wrong, if you go to Wikipedia, the definition for the digital humanities is not that bad. It's actually pretty darn good. So what does Wikipedia say? The digital humanities is a field of study, research, teaching, and invention concerned with the intersection of computing and the disciplines of the humanities. It involves investigation, analysis, synthesis, and presentation of information in electronic form. It studies how these media affect the disciplines in which they are used, and what these disciplines have to contribute to our knowledge of computing. That's pretty good. And I would argue that's pretty accurate in terms of my understanding of it. So, disability studies. And the image that I had up for digital humanities is a robot holding out a rose, a little cartoon robot holding out a rose, which it was created by, the credit is in the notes for the slide. When I share them online, it'll be there, but part of my what I think is my neuroatypicality is the part of my brain that manages names. I will forget the names of people I've known my whole life when I'm in front of people, or when somebody else's name has taken up that slot, like a car in a parking lot, and I can't find it. Okay, so the image for disability studies sort of looks like a quilt, and it's a red hand with stitches around the edge and parts in the back. And there's the phrase which disability advocates and many others often use, which is nothing about us without us, which I would not say defines disability studies, but it is a phrase that's important to disability advocacy, meaning it shouldn't be the national, like in America, the National Federation for the Blind. It's the National Federation of the Blind. That when there's advocacy, when there are decisions being made, you involve people who are going to be affected by those decisions. But disability studies in the humanities, how would we define this? Wikipedia, which as we know is never wrong, says, an academic discipline that examines and theorizes the social, political, cultural, and economic factors that define disability. And it treats the concept of disability in much the same way that a lot of humanities scholars and cultural studies scholars have treated other categories of identity, like race, like gender, like sexuality. And this is a definition as articulated by Rosemarie Garland Thompson. Disability is not so much a property of bodies as a product of cultural rules about what bodies should be or do. So what happens when digital humanities meets disability studies? In America, I often make the joke, which people sometimes laugh at. You got chocolate in my peanut butter. Well, you got peanut butter on my chocolate. And the reaction in Britain is about what I thought it would be. So it's an ad for Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, which combine chocolate and... Yeah, I'll edit that out of the audio. So. What happens? Well, forensic science has a basic principle, which was first articulated by Edmond Locard, who's Frenchman, considered the father of forensic science. And this is a phrase: every contact leaves a trace. Every contact leaves a trace. And I like to think of it in sort of cultural or anthropological terms, which is any interaction between a group leaves that group affected, changed in some way, even if it's just a trace. And obviously there are power dynamics at issue, potentially, when you think about colonization. But in terms of digital humanities and disability studies, they're insights that each brings to the other in really powerful ways. And for